As we move into September, the Commonwealth got lucky again with the initiative roll. They have the initiative, and it's a big deal this time. It allows them to, at the very least, pull these units back into Tobruk. Pay no cost for the attack they made. Or, if I can manage one, continue the attack. Maybe disrupt the entire German position. Also, to fortify more solidly. They're definitely taking the initiative this time. No reason to give it to the Germans here. Here's what happens when you screw up in this game. Germans caught here. No supply. They're in a lot of trouble there. And then I've isolated the last mobile units that the Axis has in place, other than the artillery, up near in the Tobruk salient, which pretty much says you ain't getting any further either. I've got a couple mobile units here. Well, one mobile unit there, one motorized infantry. But Rommel's army is just being devastated here. And, well, we're seeing something I'm not used to. I'm used to the game following very closely to the historical, but I'm also probably a little bit more careful and competent with my Axis forces than I was in this game. Don't take this as a, oh my God, you know, it's totally unbalanced. The game is not unbalanced at all. The only real difficulty I have with it is it does tend to be the case the English can hold that El Alamein line. It's very hard to break it. So, assuming the Germans don't lose their army, they end up stuck there. And knowing that you're not going to make it to Alexandria can cause the same kind of issues that happens over in the Gamers Africa, which is, yeah, okay, I'm not going to push for it. I'm going to try to build up my own defenses and prevent the Allies from taking anything. I'll take Tobruk. I must take Tobruk, and I must get as far as I can and then armor that line and give up territory as dearly as I can. By not expending German resources on an attempt to push to Alexandria, they skew the nature of the conflict. That may be the way to win the game, but it doesn't feel right? But this, wow, this really feels exciting to me. I've never seen the Axis fail this badly, actually. Maybe not that badly. When I recounted the totals for the attack, I only had 2-1 here. 2-1's not that great. That puts you at column 4. You want this jump in the clear terrain. You want this jump to column 6. And unfortunately, I rolled a 1. The Axis threw all their air power in, which put us down to a very, very ugly result. You can see the Germans were essentially unaffected. Which seems incorrect, but I guess they're good morale. Oh yeah, they're good morale except for this one. Why didn't that take a result? That should have taken a retreat result of some sort, I think. Now the Allies had one. That should have taken a partial, actually. I think I missed that. Anyway. They scattered the Allied forces. They've destroyed the line that was being built here just by standing in place and defending, even out of supply. Now, they were out of supply, so actually their ratings were one worse. I think I just forgot to take them. So he's disrupted. Yeah, I think I just forgot to do the damage. These guys take a partial. That affects the whole stack, even the elite unit. One partial is good. So I've got a, looks to me like a retreat. On the one unit of 3 spaces. Let's see. I was on the, let me think what I was at. I was on the 2-1. I had one shift in my favor and I rolled a 1. So I should have gotten a D3 partial on these guys. Let's get the disorder marker out because some of them are going to go under that. And then I've got a couple units at 3 morale here, which should have taken a partial. Okay. Well, I'm not sure that one's going to be taking the partial. I think I'm going to take it on the elite unit. It's hard to tell because the mechanized infantry are more expensive to rebuild, but those are Italian points. I'd rather hit the German. So this is the only unit that has to retreat. And we get them kind of chasing the English there, but whatever. Over here, it was complete success. In fact, we destroyed an elite German mechanized unit. So the battle is taking a really wild and woolly sort of aspect to it. The English at least have their movement to get back into their defensive positions, although this won't be a level 2 fortification. This is a level 1 this turn. At least I can get some, semblance of order back into play there. Another factor is I may be able to take Bardia and really kind of isolate these poor fellas. They don't have supply right now, I don't think. All they got is a truck here that they're tracing out of Bardia. And so they're going to be out of general supply and have to try to make their way back to where the German main line is. Overall, I'd still say it's an Allied victory at this point. Just because we'll see what happens if I assault Bardia or if I assault that hex. But the breakout at Tobruk has really imperiled the whole Axis force that had moved eastward. So, at the end of the Allied turn, the Axis position has been almost entirely subverted, with Bardia falling as well. The real question is, can I limp out of here with any of this crap? I don't know. It's going to be tough. I've got a truck here that'll help me, but I'm not going to be in general supply because I was tracing back to a dump in Bardia, which is gone now. And life looks really bad for Rommel. And the Axis problems are indeed very severe. These guys are all motorized units, so they can only move 1 hex each movement phase. They're not getting out of there very quickly, but I put a dump into place. It'll give me an opportunity to get out of the way. I'm going to sacrifice that dump. Well, actually, I may be eating it to provide general supply. I've got 2, 3... No, only 4. So I'll be sacrificing that dump to the Commonwealth to try to get me out of there in general supply next turn. I can probably get to a position where I'll be in range. These guys are going to help shepherd those forces out. Now, there was some thought of, say, in the motorized movement, making an attack on this Indian unit here, take this fortress, keep pressure on Tobruk, force the Brits to maintain some sort of defensive presence there. Maybe I still can do that. The truth was, though, that I'd have been attacking with armor. See, I needed my infantry here to build myself another fortification. They don't give you enough fortress markers in this game, so I'm over into the Trail of the Foxwood. I mean, you can see already with the initial line here, I wouldn't have enough to cover the El Alamein line as well. So you really do need more counters than the counter mix provides. And unfortunately, Tunisia side doesn't give you a hell of a lot of fortifications. There's some of them already on the board there. But, well, whatever. Making the consideration of trying to make this attack with the reduced armored unit, that would only be 5 strength points, 6, 7, 8 I could have attacked. That would give me a 4-1. That's a pretty good attack. I would have shifts my artillery. He'd, of course, be able to get artillery into place there. Nothing else could get into range. But my artillery wouldn't... The real problem would be I'd have a very weak force here in this fortification as opposed to a strong force here because of that Italian division, which doubles the... It's a big unit, and it doubles the strength. Oh, I hope I'm not overstacked, actually. I'm barely good. It doubles the strength of the armor unit. It makes the armor unit a full-strength unit. I've got a real problem with not having enough units up at the front line as it is. I've lost so many things to the death bag so far. I really can't afford to lose these units. And that may mean that the Brits can really do want to try to bag them. That looks appealing. Of course, the chances are that the Germans have the initiative and get another double turn. In this case, the Brits got lucky with their turn. And if I can get out of the way, it's going to be a lot harder. Obviously, the Desert Fox is over. There's no way that the Germans are going to win this game. There's probably no way they're going to win Trail of the Fox either, but I don't play games just to see who won. I like to see the situation develop. An interesting thought that came to mind, a lot of times I want to present the game as I'm used to playing it, and this is not that. In a lot of ways, I'm seeing something chaotic and interesting, and yes, it's because I screwed up, but that's cool. But part of me is saying, oh, man, this is not the Desert Fox the way I'm used to it. But I am enjoying it, and I hope that you're taking some enjoyment out of it. Or if you're not, that you've stopped watching by now. Through the Axis turn, they're not just rolling over. They launched an attack on a weakness here. Brits reinforced with what they could out of here. It could have been 2 attacks or 1, depends on how it goes. With the Axis having more air support, with the naval support protecting this, they decided to hold on to this. Their artillery got chased out. The rest is still holding the line there. But it looks like that hex is going to fall. Meanwhile, the units that were out of supply now have a dump that they were tracing from. Not these anymore, but they can actually grab supply from back in this chain, I believe. Assuming that I brought a truck with me, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I had to leave one here, I think, to get my chain. And I'm pulling my pants apart. More reinforcements coming on their way. I could have done a forced march or whatever, but I had full stacking here. Now, the Brits had an interesting choice. Again, hit the Italian divisions, which suck, but are really expensive to recover, therefore they won't recover, or hit a good armored unit, which is what they did, in order to reduce the Germans' potentiality there. Now, there's a lot of British troops around Bardia. They're not going to lose Tobruk over this very easily, and they may be able to launch a counterattack coming out of it. But right now, they've got the weaker forces facing directly against all of the Axis might, insofar as there is any Axis might left. Axis continues with their attack on the Tobruk front. Now, I've got some 13 stacking points of Axis involved in this attack. Given that I have 3 paths of supply, 1 running up this way essentially, and 2 here, although you could balance them differently. If the Brits stand and fight, that costs 2 dumps to the Germans. I think that's worthwhile. Supplies look like they're running low for the Axis. Falling back, I have no real option in these cases anyway. I'm facing just infantry. I can't throw any additional troops in. All I got is garbage, really. Because this is the motorized phase. So yeah, I'm going to have to expend 2 dumps on this. Now the Germans are going to have to rebuild the dumps. But that's going to significantly impact their ability to operate here. And I'm beginning to wish that I had started bombing Malta to try to get rid of that, because I'm just not getting the supplies in to handle what I'm doing. But on the other hand, I knew I was going to take an offensive action, and I needed my planes here. So, we'll resolve these. They're not going to go well for the Brits, but the cost and supply may be worth the sacrifice that's given with the troops. And if I can hold the spaces, it's a big deal. I doubt I will. Success. Took the 1. This one, these level 2 forts are tough to take, actually, because they ignore the retreats up to level 3. So that was not as effective as one might hope, but I did destroy a bunch of Commonwealth units. Now they're coming back when I have the refit points for them. And then I have kind of this problem. These guys are still going to be out of supply. I can't remove the disruption because they're out of supply. That actually eats a dump whenever you do that. I've been forgetting to do that, which is actually a little bit of a skew in favor of the Axis, probably because they have the greater supply losses, and they've taken some pretty big hits in this game. Early in the game, I was relieving disruptions without eating a dump. It is sort of this general cost of continuing on. So that's going to put us over to the Commonwealth side of the turn, and we'll see what they can do. Now, they either have to abandon this hex or attack out of it, if I recall correctly, because even a level 2 fortress doesn't provide you with that negation of the zone of control that a city does. And there's other opportunities like knocking out these kind of nice motorized units back there. Just a number of opportunities available for the Brits as they move forward. What they can do, what they want to do, it's hard to tell. Launching a successful attack from the British side is just as difficult without some sort of overwhelming force. I'm trying to look at this. I've got a problem in that I've got to get out of this hex if I don't launch an attack out of it. I clearly can't do it with this disrupted unit. So I looked at, well, okay, if I'm going to launch an attack there, it's going to bring this into play. So I could take these two hexes. I've got some infantry I could get out to here and throw some armor here. And then I've got this caught. And if I pull out of here, I could maybe throw enough force in here. But then this is within range of Tobruk and will automatically get an activation and be able to pull me in there. I don't see a way that I can get an attack of any value. Now, I could launch an attack from back here and force those units back, and no big deal there. I mean, maybe they get disrupted for using their reaction movement, maybe. But that's not really a huge effect, especially since it's only the Recam, the armored car here, that could possibly get disrupted, and that's not really a powerful unit. Really coming to difficult terms in terms of trying to figure out how to get a grasp on anything along this line. Attacks are just so damn difficult in this game. The thought was to try to launch just an attack to chase these guys out of there, but no. These guys are within 2 of Tobruk. They have full reaction capability. Wow, I can't figure out how to take this on with any effectiveness without, giving the Axis a good chance to win a defensive victory against. And I settled on just taking out the one unit, the piece that's behind the lines, that if I let it limp home, will be problems. So 2 more units are in the refit box. They survived the die rolls for that. Had to abandon this hex, which means, well, since I'm not next to it, the Axis was able to move in and take that fortress. That may have been a mistake. I probably should have set up here, but the problem is whatever I set up there would then be potentially vulnerable to an attack from units in a fortress, and then I'm forced to attack the fortress or give up the space. It was just a mistake to give up the space early, but I had other things on my mind. I'm on to the second phase of the English side of things. I'm going to start moving the rail line forward at least. Jeez, realizing I forgot to convert some of these to dumps during the refit phase for the Axis. Again, you're going to constantly see me making errors like that in this game. There's nothing else I can really do about it. And this one should actually have been a truck as well. I don't know how much difference it makes, but it could have gotten our way a couple of hexes. Well, 1 hex. And it will probably escape. They didn't want to do the supply overrun, although at this point, now I'm kind of regretting not having done it, but I might do it on the next turn. Yeah, there's so many little things in this game that it's very, very difficult for me to not make errors that would have cost a lot. So for example, not turning these into dumps, that means everything would more or less have been out of supply. I mean, I could supply a few, but it would be eating this dump and only being able to supply 10 of the stacking points. As it stands, I think I've got everything covered, but I got to recount and make sure that's the case. If it's not, I'm probably screwed. No, I got this one back there. So if the count's bad, I can convert this to a dump too. And that probably means I could turn this into a truck to give me something mobile. I'm having a lot of trouble moving though without supplies at this point. I'm fine with just 3 of them, mainly because the Italian infantry, they don't count against destroying dumps. For the foot units don't count in terms of eating the dump up. In terms of general supply, combat supply, they still will, and they make fine garrisons, but they really suck when you're counting on them to fight because, well, they're not that terrible. They're 2 point per step, which is about what the Brits have, but they don't have a lot of, they don't have the ability to break down into smaller units. So you've got these really big divisional units that you can't turn into a bunch of brigade-size units that are only a step each. Seems I forgot to spend my refit points last turn. I can't really go back on that easily, because I don't know. Some of this stuff may have been disrupted and whatever. So we're going to put that in with the vagaries of war and just say, well, more points to build this turn. It's a shame, because I really could have used those forces this turn. Lots and lots of refits coming in for the Axis. They won the initiative this turn, and they're going to go first. Any hopes to do anything, get a grip back on Tobruk, rely on taking it this turn, basically, as far as I can tell. The Brits don't have any withdrawals this turn. They just have some good units, so it's going to be a problem if I don't take it now. Well, not Tobruk itself, but if I don't end up getting control of the salient. I feel like I've kind of managed to hang on somehow in the face of, real adversity there. This is also the last turn that the Brits have their naval bombardment. And that'll go away. And, that's a shift that it's nice to have disappearing. I haven't rolled for my Malta effect. That's going to be problematic. When do I actually bomb Malta? Because I may want to commit to that, even though, jeez, so many damn hard decisions here. Because, if I spend my air units on an attack on Malta, I don't have the supplies to do it. That's what it comes down to. Alright, so you suffer with what you suffer, right? Now this is turn 9, so I'm going to get a -1 from the die roll here. So it only ends up +1 net. 6, that's going to get me 2 trucks. That's kind of cool. That'll help a little. Big gripes I have about this game is you have to pre-plan everything. And I suck at pre-planning. And I'm going to back up and unpre-plan. I was saying I wasn't going to attack Malta, but the truth is I have enough supplies to keep my link in line and build up for next turn. Without the replacements on the line, and God knows when they're going to get there, with the situation with the Allies, I can't attack them. I mean, I'm looking at this and I can't get a grip on anything. So I'm going to spend one of these trucks that I got for the turn. I'm going to use 2 of my air points to launch an attack on Malta. And this is kind of I get disgusted like this with myself in the game, because I just can't figure out, how to launch an attack in it. And I think when you get kind of a parity situation like here, you can't. That's all there is to it. So I need to try to get things up there, and I take 1 plane off the Malta line, and I lose 1. Now I committed 2 to this, so 2 go off there. Actually I'm up to 4. So 2 go off there, but I'm back down to 3 planes total. I couldn't afford the second supply to do the bigger bombardment. That's life, you know. Next turn, I'll pull in closer. Actually, I don't know. Maybe I could have launched this one. Who the hell knows? Can't be used if it's within 5 hexes of an enemy combat unit. I think I was down here. So I couldn't have afforded to turn that one over. But, you know, you have to know precisely where all your pieces are going to be at the end of your turn to figure out what you can afford to use at any given time in the turn. That's very frustrating for me. I'm incapable of doing that. Basically, I'd have to move all my pieces on a separate board, look to see what I want, and then come back to the main board and change it. And maybe, you know, using Vassal or something like that, I could do that. I'm incapable of playing this game effectively, as you have seen. But yeah, it's I still like it, but it's very, very painful for me to play something where I have to plan to this degree. You know, I play war games more for enjoyment than to try and actually be the planner. You know, if I could spend a day planning an operation in real life, you know, I could do fine, and that would be fine. You know, this is what, a month each turn. To spend a few days working on something like that, if that's your job, that's fine. But as a playing type thing, to play this effectively is beyond my ability to enjoy a game. I just don't want to play that way. Which, it works fine for me to see events like I've seen unfold in this game. It's just, it's more taxing on my poor brain than, say, the OCS was. Who knows, by not having those troops moving forward and almost in place at this point, I may have saved myself something. I may be somehow inducing the Commonwealth to attack. Who knows? I am being a little bit careful here through some the armored cars back on top of one of my dumps. I've got dumps in place, hopefully where I'm supposed to. Who the hell knows? Yeah, I get frustrated easily. And I also have the, I took my refit points. What I notably did not take was this armored unit here. The reason being, next turn my armor rating goes up to 2. And let's move this into place just because I get a slightly better unit. The Allied tanks improve a little bit more, I think, over the course of the game than do the German ones. But I'd rather not spend the points on the German tank at this point. I was able to get myself some infantry. With the Italians, I even built up one of the big infantry divisions. You know, I've lost so many units. Usually these things are going to be being recovered throughout the course of the game. Well, I got nothing left to rebuild. I certainly don't want to start building, you know, partial Italian infantry units. So I might as well build up what I can actually use on the front lines right now. And they're not too bad on defense. Well, the English actually do nothing in October except shift more forces into the Tobruk salient. They're not looking at any capability to attack. And very quickly it's becoming obvious that the Germans aren't going to manage an attack either, unless it's some kind of end run around to get Bardia, which has tons and tons of supply and is not that well defended. It's an enticing idea. The danger is, of course, in order to make that attack, I'll have to create a perimeter around a larger area. But if I can kind of seal that off with something that's defensible, then the Allies are in a lot of trouble again, perhaps. Not so much that I think I'd be able to charge my way back towards Alexandria again, although there aren't a lot of Allied reinforcements showing up here. I don't know. Turn 14, turn 13, I've written the turns that these things come back on. It's going to be some time before they start showing up again. So maybe, I don't know. But certainly trying to do that seems appealing to me at this moment. My vision's not very good right now, though. I just put my contacts in and not really handling things well. Well, the Germans didn't want to make that stab for Bardia. It looks like they're weakening their forces too much, so they gave the English the chance to rectify the situation, giving them initiative. And the English did not. All they did was fortified here. It really gives them kind of an anchor to this line here. Now, it's not a real line because it can be pierced here, but the Germans do not have the force to kind of cut Tobruk off and do anything of value as far as I see it. Maybe once troops start streaming in from this reinforcement quantity. On the English side, they probably have a slight advantage in troops, but all I could look at was maybe chasing these guys back a little, gaining some ground. Now that ground would be important. This space is important towards the Germans having a move to get them into Bardia. An attempt to chase there, or maybe an attack on this dump here. These things could be done, but they're risky. And the English feel like they're way ahead of the game right now. They don't really need to play for chances or anything. It would be nice to bag that German army, but it looks like a dangerous thing to do. Probably see an English commander get sacked at this point, even though he was successful here, getting slowed down and not, either being chased back nor being able to make any headway is usually a sign that, well, it's time to replace the commander. But at this point, we got to send some more forces into the Tobruk salient for the Germans and see what that comes. One thing the English did do is they bumped up their Malta air again. They got another air point. In fact, they start getting them at higher rates than the Germans do pretty soon. And it's a losing battle, basically. And it's a new year. And not quite my time. Close. The best I have to do. I looked. I couldn't find anything I wanted to do. Plus I'm feeling a little under the weather. Anyway, in the game we've pushed into January, the Germans didn't do much either. They pushed some of their reinforcements into place. Next turn, maybe they want to try doing something. But this turn, they had troops coming. Now, the next turn, they have troops coming too, but they're these faster units that they rebuilt this for the turn. And all they got is some... oh, no, that's not right. Some good Italian units coming in. We might be seeing some withdrawals here. This is turn 11. Yeah, the English are going to be losing 2 units. So, as they get pullouts, maybe it'll be advantageous for me to attack, but then we've got a lot of troops coming in here, it looks like. More than we're withdrawing. And then we're getting more and more. So, there's kind of maybe a 1-turn window, maybe another turn in there while those troops come into place, where it's basically, if we're going to make the attack, it's got to be soon. Otherwise, the Commonwealth's just going to have more forces. They're also getting their rail line closer and closer, and that's a real problem because it means that the Brits will always have a supply source. If you cut Tobruk off and this isn't up there, then it makes it difficult for the Brits to fight. They have to actually maintain a supply chain. Once we fall out of the Tobruk area, then, once we get to about here or something, the Brits are going to have to build a supply chain and actually defend along that, whereas the Germans get a much easier job out of defending near their supply source. But, kind of losing the Desert War really sucks. Well, this has gotten to kind of the ridiculous level. Moving into February, Germans bomb Malta down another point. Hopes of getting more supplies in. They have enough right now. They just don't have the forces. My feeling is I have to let the Brits screw up in order to get a lock on things. The Brits are the ones who have to push forward. In order to win the game, they have to defeat the German army. They can't allow anything really much on this map. I'm not sure what the victory conditions are particularly. I mean, in the long run, they have to get the Tunisia map. But you see, that's kind of a weird situation because a bunch of troops land in Algeria and Tunisia and are kind of, dealing with the French. And I don't know quite the rules about that yet. We'll get there when we get there, if we get there, because it's possible Tripoli could fall first. But in order to win Desert Fox, I don't think the Germans can stay where they are for the Brits. Let me check the victory conditions here. I don't know about that. They have to have 20 victory points to have a marginal victory. Right now they have this one at 1, 5, 6, 7, 8. Sounds to me like they're doing pretty poorly. I don't think there's more than a point there. Right? Withdrawal failures is the only other victory point that's there. So, yeah, we're actually looking currently at a substantial Commonwealth victory. So actually the Germans have to do better than this to win the Desert Fox map. The problem is I just can't see I can't see that push forward. Now 20 points for Tobruk. If the Brits do make a mistake, maybe I can get Tobruk back. But without Tobruk and without holding it, you can't win this sucker the way it is. The only exception is if you bypass Tobruk and go for Alexandria, which is impossible at this point. It is possible if you can get Tobruk down to a small force. You just surround it with about half your troops, the Italian infantry, etc., and press forward this way. You get things like Bardia at 6 points. That puts me up to 14. Mersa Matrua puts me up to 24, 26. A couple people to grab these. But this is not close, right? With the line established inside Libya, it is just not close. And I don't see any possibility, though, for the Germans to launch a successful attack. We'll see. I don't know how the withdrawals are going to go. I know a bunch more troops leave on turn, a couple more leave on turn 12, but we get a bunch here too, and they're motorized stuff. And at some point, it's going to come to the point where the Brits can actually start picking this off. Right now, though, it feels almost like trench warfare without the warfare part. A Sitzkrieg, basically, As far as I'm concerned, the Brits have now generated what I consider an impenetrable line. And it's not absolute, obviously the Axis could conceivably run an attack against an edge or something, but the fact that I filled this in, that Bardia is now behind the lines, there's just no real chance of an Axis attack in and of itself. So now the question is, when does the Allied attack come, and how does it come? Do I try to perform some sort of large outflank and maybe bag the whole situation, which obviously isn't going to happen, but if I make a significant threat to do so, then the Axis has to fall back. Or do I try an attack? Attacks are hard in this game, though. So a maneuvering positioning would work better. But there's a lot of troops, and it's far out, and trying to extend that way may just give the opportunity for the Germans to attack. Again, sitting here wishing I could do something, but unable to with either side. Did throw in another air unit into Malta. Basically the feeling there being, I don't think that we're going to be breaking this open anytime soon. For whatever reason, both sides seem to want the Commonwealth to go first. In this case, the Germans won the initiative, but they gave it to the Commonwealth. Kind of makes sense this turn. There were a lot of withdrawals here. A lot of the infantry's gone, and tell you the truth, the English also pushed an armor unit that was in Tobruk and rebuilt it using refit points to get that heavier armor, to get the more advanced tanks into play. So now it's a somewhat stronger unit, this 13122. It had been this. The difficulty there, though, is now it's back at Alexandria. I have another one I'd like to do that with. I didn't have enough points to do both. I could have partially refitted it. Cost 3 points to put the half-strength unit in play, and then I could upgrade it next turn. The problem is I don't want to pull too many of my decent units out of the Tobruk salient, especially with all those infantry gone. If there is a turn when the Axis wants to launch an attack, it's this one. The problem is a simple matter of expectations. In order to launch an attack, I can't take the Tobruk salient out. That's clear. I mean, this is where the British Army is, and it's well defended. It's got a supply source. Fairly soon the rail is going to reach Tobruk, which will mean the supply runs both ways. So even if I cut the rail line at some extended location, the Brits could push forward. Here's the problem. I could stretch my forces around. Maybe have some small force that I could send towards Alexandria. But that small force isn't enough, not because of this unit, although that is not insignificant. It needs some infantry to help it. Of course, I can shift things using the naval transport in the other direction. But when I look at turn 14, I'm going to be getting a whole bunch of new units back. Not a humongous amount, but the reinforcements are coming in the next couple turns. I'm not going to make it in one turn. 2 turns, probably not. On that third turn, that's my big reinforcement turn where I get a lot of these and I get some additional units. That's the push forward that the Allies commit to. I just can't see launching the attack, which means I'm bombing Malta, but Malta may not be that important if the Germans aren't on the offensive anymore. Kind of took a risk there and blew a supply point that maybe I could have used up here. I was considering putting it. But I'm basically building a set of dumps so that a slow withdrawal becomes possible. I don't want to do that yet. I want to give this territory up slowly. I'm not sure quite why, given the nature of the Tunisia campaign, where you really do evacuate all of Libya and get up into Tunisia to handle the torch fight landings there. But if I can get the Brits to launch an attack, to push me back, in a sense, would torch really have happened if the stalemate line was still in place? I don't know. But yeah, the feeling right now is I can't really have all these forces here to best deal with the possibility of the North African landings. And this is why playing the two together is kind of weird. So I kind of almost want to start withdrawing some German forces onto this map in order to better support the eventual fight, which is going to happen in Tunisia. One that I shouldn't even know is a risk, really, until the landings happen. So, you know, I kind of don't want to do that. I don't want to play as though I know the torch is coming. I don't know. So the Germans have handed the English the first move again, and this time they took advantage of it. They've gotten some of their refitted armor, etc., and made a quick attack here. Now, the Germans, or the Axis, could have just pulled out, but they took the attack instead, taking a couple of hits. They did some damage back as well, so it's not like it was a one-sided thing. But we're beginning to grind forward. It's really a matter of, okay, well, you know, I can pick that unit off, and maybe I can pick off an attack here where only a couple of units could come in to play. I did it only in my motorized movement. I had to get an armored unit up into play. That the one that I refurbished, and I've got another one that came in as a reinforcement that I just upgraded as well. Just spending my replacement points on getting my armor up to snuff. But I'm not too worried about the air points in Malta anymore. I feel like supplies really aren't the thing. That's not where I want to deprive the Germans of what they have. I need to take land, and they have a very good supply net right now. Now, if I were to be able to take that supply net and destroy it, if I could do an attack that was powerful enough that I just push them back, then cutting their supplies would be useful. Of course, then I wouldn't really need, if I was that powerful, I wouldn't need the air power that I'm needing to commit to battles. Anyway, we can points back as we go to the German turn. The Axis, not a lot to do. Just maintaining this as much as I can, taking the hits where I have to, but trying to fall back as slowly as I can over the terrain. You know, this unit out here is somewhat exposed, but it's like 30 strength points. More than that, actually, 34. There's not a lot I can do against a pile that big. I can cut it off from communications, but it has a dump under it now, because you can ride a truck up on your attack, and since I didn't advance, I can put that right there. And you know, I just, there's no ability to isolate it in the way. Am I exposed a little bit out here, for example? But I don't view it as too terrible. I can throw reinforcements into play. Basically, the Brits have enough force to try to push their way through at this point, to really fight against whatever defenses I can throw up. I don't have the kind of force to be able to isolate a couple of units, especially when they're this densely packed, and just attack them. I don't know if I have enough. This is looking kind of scary to go around and cut it off and just create a big pocket. There's enough supplies in that pocket that might hurt me more. So I'm kind of looking at the, just push forward and win this war of attrition here, even though there is room for maneuver down there, that I could attempt that. I'm not sure which way to go with that. Anyway, the Germans are done with their turn, and we're going into May. I'm going to load this one up, just as a matter of keeping the video size down a little bit here. There's not much been going on, and I think things are taking, you know, a sort of an inflection point. They've reached an inflection point where we've got a little bit of a change in the behavior. We've had this kind of siege for a while. Now we're going to move to where the Brits are actually pushing forward. So it seems like a good time to stop. Ideally, I would have done it, you know, at the end of the turn before they actually did, but I wasn't sure I was going to move forward. The numbers just sort of added up there. Before I load it up, this is, when you think in Go terms, the English formation is a little heavy, but the German formation is just terrible in a Go-like view. And that's why it looks like you might be able to surround and destroy it. It is just bad shape, as it were. And I should be stretching that out or something. I chose not to. But it's interesting always to me to look at, in a game like this, and take kind of the Go perspective there. This looks too powerful. Not powerful, but too solid. I've wasted too much effort here where I can spread out some more. This just looks like it's ready to die.